I've now had an opportunity to watch fellow travelers' video on ContraPoints and her whole position on the voting for Joe Biden thing, and I have to say it was reprehensible. I'm still trying to nail down exactly what ContraPoints ideology actually is. I get a sense of libertarian leftism kind of thing, which would mean anarcho, add whatever word you want to put here. Now, as an anarchist, because I'm not sure exactly what ContraPoints ideology actually is, as an anarchist, you don't vote. That's kind of one of their main points. You don't vote in, capitalist elections. Now, let's say that she's some brand of Marxism. Well, that's a different question altogether. I think it's pretty clear that this idea that if you vote for Biden, you're voting for harm reduction, you're voting for all these other excuses for voting are complete nonsense. If at this point you cannot tell what the difference between the Democrat and the Republican Party are, or more accurately, how they're the same party, essentially, then you're not doing the investigation that you're supposed to. You can have this mountain full of the things that Trump did wrong. White supremacists are very fine people, as he said, letting everybody die from COVID, etc. Joe Biden, the very institutional things that make bourgeois democracy a lie, the very thing that would make them capitalism, a repressive state apparatus for the preservation of capital, is also what Joe Biden is. In the 1996 crime bill, all the things that he did under Obama, everything he assisted the Obama administration doing, there really isn't a choice here. If you're of the ideological position of anarchism, well, there never was a choice. There is no choice, because you don't vote, period. And if you're a Marxist, you're really not supposed to be voting either, especially when this is your choice. Now, I know a lot of Marxists have this really bad habit of quote mining Marx, saying, "Oh, they should engage in electoral politics to forward their to agitate and do propaganda." Okay, that would make sense if you were voting for, like, say, the PSL. Then that would make sense. I mean, I would still shake my head at it as being a worthless action, but at least would be logically consistent with what Marx said. Going with Biden is not doing anti-capitalism. It is not doing leftism. It's doing liberalism. And as I so famously said to Vosh, when he asked me if I was riding with Biden, I said I'd rather die. Other than the fact that I'm not an American and I can't vote in U.S. elections anyway. But you get my point. Now, I'm going to hit this in a way that Fellow Traveler didn't, because Fellow Traveler is not a third worldist. I am a third worldist. And this whole continuous thing to go after the lesser of two evils, notice it when it's highly questionable whether there even is a lesser evil, just a different kind of evil. Okay, I remember, because I was doing this when Obama was running for election. Okay? When he just got into the White House. I started doing this channel, I believe, 5 days before Obama was inaugurated. Here's the thing. Everybody back then did the same goddamn thing. Oh, look at Obama saying about how wealth is distributed unequally. Here's Obama saying people deserve to have health care. And they started jumping on the Obama bandwagon just for that. And saying, oh, look, he's not a communist, but he's got this thing that's going to help us. Then you got the CPUSA which never makes anything better, well, only ever makes everything worse. And I kept saying, no, you're not going to get universal health care. No, this is not a step forward. No, this is not going to make things better. And then people turned around like 4 years later, 8 years later. Yeah, but we got the individual mandate. We got they have to, pre-existing conditions you have to get covered. Well, how long did that last? I mean, that's going away right now as the Trump administration is literally suing to get rid of it. So you got your individual mandates. So what? How many Americans still go without health care? And what does it matter if they just cut all the funding for it anyway? You didn't get it. And that seems to be the main selling point for a lot of first worldists, is to just say, yeah, but we got that we got that health care. Meanwhile, what did everybody else get? God knows African Americans still got all the police killings. God knows Native Americans still got literally the same thing that they've been getting century after century. And God knows the third world got the same thing under Obama, but it did under Bush, just with a little bit more swag and class to it. And that's kind of my main point. That when first worldists make these decisions that they're going to participate in elections, not only are they completely violating their own ideology for doing this, full well knowing that it's not going to make a difference. It doesn't mean you're only legitimizing the system when you do it. I don't even believe in putting up third-party candidates of a Marxist stripe. Because one, you know they're not going to win, and two, you're only legitimizing the system when you do that. Because you're letting people... We don't live in Marxist time, when things were far more radical than they are now. I mean, you simply cannot compare a Victorian workhouse living proletarian in the 1850s to an American now. You can't. I'm sorry, it's a ridiculous comparison. We're talking about people who were homeless and lashed themselves to chairs so they could sleep sitting up because there was no room left for anybody to sleep in the workhouses. To an American now. I'm sorry, that is ridiculous. Living standards for Americans are astronomically higher than they were back then. So don't try to claim it's the same. It's the same conditions, or even try to claim that somehow it's the same, or somehow it's the same level of revolutionary potential. This is what first worldists do. They will always sell out the indigenous. They will always sell out black people. They will always sell out the third world in order to get their nice, soft, democratic reforms. The very quote that I put on Twitter that got censored by Twitter was one about Lenin talking about how you shouldn't vote for candidates because to get some kind of softer living standard, or to get a better benefit participating in those social democracies, which would have been way better benefits than Americans are getting now. I mean, America's not even getting anything, but the logic behind voting for Biden is still there. Because it just forwards the system and crushes revolutionary potential, and still continues the victims of imperialism. Because as a lot of people, and I'm going to point to Americans and Canadians on this, and to some degree UKers, social democracy is still based off the plunder of imperialism. The wars that go on that murder millions upon millions of people every year through not just actual bombs, but enforced poverty, etc., are what fuels social democracy's high living standard. Even in the Western European countries, those who are not even directly involved in war are benefiting from the plunder of the third world. Remember, people in the Western European social democratic countries still buy the stolen resources from third world countries. They still exploit their labor. They still usually support those wars. Oh, please, don't do this war, George Bush. You're evil. Okay, spoils of imperialism now, please. That's how that works. It's still there. Even if America went social democratic tomorrow and you got universal health care, you got universal education, you're still an imperialist power, and it would still require an imperialist power in order to pay for it. That's how it works. Yeah, but Jeff Bezos is like ... If we just reduced his money, then everything, we would be able to afford it. Okay, first of all, if you taxed Amazon enough to pay for those things, you would literally kill Amazon. Because now the rate of profit on Amazon has now gone down so much lower that you would be essentially accelerating the tendency of the rate of profit to fall. Now, you maybe could argue against this, but essentially that would happen. It wouldn't actually solve the problem. You actually would make it worse. Not to mention how much you'd kill the U.S. economy by not spending 60% of the GDP on military expenditures. That's very intimately tied with the U.S. economy and the amount of jobs that exist in the country. Again, I'm not telling you anything you shouldn't already know. Even if you don't know it by now, you're not doing your homework. But I get what first worldists keep saying. Yeah, but we're not in a revolutionary situation where people are willing to fight against the government. I know. That's the point the third worldists keep making. That you're not. And you never are. You're not doing it. It's not happening. The first world, even before there was a first and a third world, the workers in the advanced countries noted a very high tendency not to be revolutionary, and that the more spoils of imperialism that the advanced countries, the first world countries got, the less they were willing to carry out a revolution. Nobody in their right mind could possibly compare America today to, the eve of the Soviet Revolution. There's no comparison. Absolutely not. It is ridiculous beyond all measure. And that's the point, the thing that a lot of first worldists freak out about with regards to third worldism. Yeah, we could do a revolution here. Okay, do it. The potential's there. We could do it. Okay, do it. Well, we can't do it right now because people don't want to do it. Well, you just said it was possible. Well, yeah, but the conditions are not 100%. Well, they never are at that level where there would be a revolution. That's the point that we've been making all this time. Because workers in the first world are bought off. Even the workers that are treated shitty in the first world are bought off. I mean, even the workers that are in shitty conditions in America are still bought off enough that they're not willing to do it. You're going to see Boogaloo boys walking into the streets, shooting black people and shooting Antifa before you're going to see a revolution. There's resistance in the first world, don't get me wrong. There is Antifa, there is anti-fascist movement, and there very well should be, and I'm glad that it's there. But that's not revolution. And that's what we're talking about here, revolution. Not individual acts of resistance to police killings. And I know I have to say this multiple times because people don't listen. I'm glad that it's there. I mean, it's pretty clear that I support Antifa and their endeavors to fight against fascism and police killings. Like all those right-wing militias say that they are against, but somehow they always end up coming down on the side of the fascists themselves and supporting the police. The system is unjust, the system is wrong. Support the people who enforce the system. Okay, I mean, it's not like militias are known for their deep ideological thinking, ideological loyalty, fanaticism, but not concrete analysis, I'll tell you that. That's always the point that we've been trying to make. And ContraPoints telling people to vote for these ridiculous, nonsensical reasons. For Vosh telling people to vote, and Destiny not only telling people to vote for Biden, but then going around and supporting the Kenosha shooter. Literally supporting fascism and then banning anybody who calls him out on it from his live stream. You just prove me right. When you do these stupid rad-lib things, you prove third worldism right. That's the point here, that the people who are running around calling themselves Marxists, first of all, half of them are social democrats. They don't even know it. You know, I watched a portion of that DSA meeting earlier, and it was like the most cringy thing I have ever seen. I am telling you right now, Lenin, Mao, Stalin, anybody Marxist leader would have laughed at that pathetic display. Ridiculous, pathetic display. They would have laughed or raged. I don't know. I raged. I was kind of laughing at first, and then I started raging. Because that's a joke. And half of the people who claim to be Marxists are those people right now. The other half keep being stuck with this ridiculous idea that if you go on Twitter and you act snarky at people, that's doing revolution. No, we don't think that's revolution. That's just what we're doing right now until the revolutionary time comes. You see, that's the problem. That's all it ever really is. That's all it ever really is in the first world. Remember, it's always a guy standing on a street corner, on a soapbox or crate, handing out a socialist newspaper. It's always some guy on the internet giving an opinion in a YouTube video. Me, and I know that's who I am. I know that's what I do. I'm not under any kind of effing illusion about it. I know who I am. I know what it is that I do. I don't think it's revolutionary. I'm just good at it. But I'm the one on the internet and the YouTube telling everybody how bad it is. Because it's always a blog. It's always some spiky-haired loser on YouTube. It's always some guy making snarky comments on Twitter. Because it's the first world. And that's what I've been saying. ContraPoints once previously in a conversation said that she doesn't think she'd do very well in the Soviet Union. Got to agree. Some petty bourgeois. I mean, not even, petty bourgeois. I mean, let's face it, ContraPoints is not a worker. ContraPoints has 12,000 backers on Patreon. Now, let's assume that there's $1 a month from each person, which is not true. It's a lot more than that. But let's just say it's $1 a month. 12,000 backers, $1 each. That's $12,000 a month. Are you kidding me? I'm never going to see that much money in my lifetime as a salary per month. I've gone whole years and made less money than that. She makes in a month what a lot of people like on disability in more social democratic countries. A person in Canada, a single person on disability in Canada, receives like $1,000 a month. Makes 12 times that, and then you could calculate according to minimum wage and whatever. Do you have any idea what I could do with that kind of money? I could open an office. I could hire people. I could create a business out of that. I could open like a news network, an actual one, not a pretend one like this is. Someone like that wouldn't do very well in the Soviet Union. I think that's pretty obvious. And that's my point here. Because that's first worldism. First worldism is when you know revolution needs to be done, you say you're going to do it, you say it's possible, and then never do it. That has been everything from debating our socialism to every first worldist I've ever debated, to every argument I've ever had online about it. It is the same thing. Yeah, we'll do it, we just never do it. And the conditions are never there. The desire to do it is never there. I can point to a letter from Engels in 1885 saying there's no workers' movement in the UK. There's nothing revolution there. I can give you everything that Lenin ever said during the Second International, saying that the advanced countries are not revolutionary and the social democracies are just taking people away from revolutionary potential. During that time, today it's even more. I'm sorry, but the idea that there's any kind of revolutionary potential in Western Europe is laughable. It's laughable. To say there's any revolutionary potential in Canada is laughable. No, there isn't. There's room for resistance, and there should be, and there is. But not revolution. Come on. You know goddamn well tomorrow that people aren't going to give up that massive welfare state to pick up a gun and go fight a revolution. It's not going to happen. How many times have I pointed out, okay, I want you to walk up to a union construction worker who makes $80,000 a year, hand him a rifle and say, guess what? Your pension's gone, your 2-car garage is gone, your 2 oversized trucks are gone, and you're a guerrilla fighter now. You have to give all those things up. They're going to laugh in your face. They're not going to do it. It's not even in their material interest to do so. And you know that. Just because revolution needs to happen, or should happen, doesn't mean that it is. And while first world people are walking around saying, yeah, I'll do it. Just watch me, I'll do it. You've got billions of people suffering throughout the third world. Billions. For the privilege that first world people have. It's not even just red lib. It is red lib, don't get me wrong, as fellow traveler said, to vote Biden and tell people, oh, you better vote for Biden because Emperor Dum Dum is going to make things worse. I would also consider it first worldism. Because they have the luxury of considering a candidate that's going to promise them to make things better and then not even deliver, and then to be naive enough to believe it. Because you can afford to do so. So just try to keep that in mind. I felt that it was necessary for me to say that. If you want to vote for a third-party candidate, that would be a different thing altogether. I still think you'd be throwing your vote away because any third-party candidate that gets in isn't going to be able to do anything because you know the ruling class is going to get rid of them. You know that if anybody ever got elected that actually threatened the capitalist system or the capitalist class, they would just get rid of them. So what's the point? You know you can't vote in revolution. You know that's not going to happen. So just think about that. So the point of this video is not just that riding with Biden is radicalism. It's also first worldism. And it's a symptom of people who know they're not going to engage in a revolutionary struggle ever.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.